Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks a million for hopping in and joining myself and Brian Klock with Klockwerks. We're very excited to have you here. We've got a lot of things to cover. Of course, I'm going to start a little bit earlier here. I want to give a big shout out and a big thanks to our channel members for supporting the channel. If you guys could do me a favor, we've got several people on the chat now. If you could give me a thumbs up and let me know that the audio and the video is coming in good, I would greatly appreciate it. So thanks to Mark Feeney, Don Matry, Mick Cabraja, I think I pronounced that right. Sorry, Mick. Jay Ditting, Gregory Ranlett, Greg Valdez, Ralph Ryuki, I think that's right, and Kevin Christensen. Guys, thanks a million for supporting the channel. We greatly, greatly appreciate that. And I think we're going to go ahead and go live with this. You guys, can you give me a thumbs up on the audio, please? Let me know. Mike, Carey, awesome, guys. Thank you very much. I believe we've got Brian ready to go. And good morning, Brian.
Good morning to you.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm in sunny Southern California. I'm going to leave 70 degrees and sunny today to go back to probably 30 in South Dakota. But I came out here. Ashlyn, our 11-year-old daughter, Vanessa's daughter, my stepdaughter, lives out here. And so I came to pick her up, and she'll be in South Dakota with us for 2 weeks during Christmas. So we're super excited to have her and just to, be part of that deal.
Excellent. Well, where'd she go? There she is. Good to see you, hon. So let's tell everybody, you got to go sledding for the first time, right?
I did.
How awesome is that?
It was really fun and scary.
Yeah. There we go. Awesome.
It was funny. I told Kevin, I said, it's crazy. I said, you don't know what you don't know. I asked this kid, I said, okay, you want to go sledding? She said, no. I said the next day, hey, let's go sledding. No, I'm good. I'm like, hey, come on now. It's your last day. I know it's super, super cold out. Like, but I really want you to go sledding before we take you to the airport this afternoon. She goes, okay, but I just want to tell you, I've never been sledding. So, we all have that internal fear of like, what is the thing that you don't know, right?
Right.
And so that was such a big moment. And yet I said -5. You said what?
Negative like 10, 11, a lot.
We left the truck running. I gave her a promise. I said, I'll leave the diesel truck running at the top of the hill. If we go back up and you want to get in and warm up for a minute, I understand you're doing more than most kids right now, let alone being from California and being in sub-zero South Dakota,
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. So there is something I want to tell you, Brian. I've always watched you, how accessible you are to your customers and fans. And I was always fascinated by it, going to shows and stuff. And I always admired that about you a lot.
Thank you.
Shows, I've sat back and just watch you, and you always take time to talk to everybody, man. And that all your crew does, man. And that's an awesome thing. People want to connect.
Let me interject something right here. I just literally an hour ago got a call. I needed an older Road Glide to fit windshields on.
Right.
So I bought a 2007 from a guy on Facebook on Thursday night when I was in Denver for a meeting. Said, perfect, I'll buy it. Vanessa got a cashier's check ready. And one of the guys that works for us, Todd Dozark, went to Sioux City, Iowa. It's about a 2-hour drive this morning because the guy and his family were headed to Vegas at noon. So he's like, could you pick it up before noon? Perfect. And Todd goes, what do we do with it? I said, we're just going to make it over with our parts, show people what to do because, well, everybody's crazy about new bikes. The old bikes are getting fairly reasonable right now. And I think there's going to be a big resurgence of people wanting to do those old skinny tire baggers, right?
Right.
And so bought this 2007. It's got 60,000 miles on it. Here's the trick. Todd went in, and it has already a Klockwerks windshield on it.
Of course.
The guy's looking at the bike. Well, not thankful, right?
Right.
Very humbled by that in itself. It's so cool. And so the guy keeps rubbing the sticker, and it says, in memory of Earl Cassidy Jr., okay?
Okay.
His name's Earl Cassidy, this guy. His son died in the military, died in service. And so he's telling this to Todd. So this kind of bike thing was a tribute, his son, this whole deal. So Todd, being the great employee that he is, saw a Phillips screwdriver over on the bench and takes the windshield off. The guy said, are you going to put the stock windshield on to transport this thing home? He said, no. He said, this means more to you than us. And you guys should keep it. And he said he had a little bit of a shrine there kind of to his son on the garage wall. And Todd goes, it belongs on that garage wall.
Man, that's
He
awesome.
said, I really want you to have it. He said, so he goes, I picked up your bike, but I made this father and his mom cry, you know?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, but I'm so proud of you, Todd, because that's the heart that is Klockwerks. Like, I'm not there. You knew I wasn't going to care about you taking off a $200 windshield and giving it to that guy because it was his thing, right?
Well,
And he doesn't lose that sticker. He doesn't lose that memory. He's always there. And now as they travel for Christmas to Vegas, they're going to be talking about that the whole way. They'll be a little nicer to people in the gas station. They'll be a little nicer to people at the hotel. Why? Because someone was a little nicer to them first.
That's right.
Man, I was proud of him. I was just
That's
like,
awesome.
Yeah, that's
Good for him.
guy.
Well,
I mean, I think that's Klockwerks. That's what we hope to do, right?
That's right. And it's, I love those bike projects too. I don't know if you saw the pictures, like that little, the little Indian shortster, the little tiny one that I did a while back. And it was cool because this lady lived out west and couldn't find anybody that knew what this bike was. And, it's a little 50cc two-stroke mini, right? Well, it was a mini 5 is actually what it was. But so I knew what the bike was. So when she brings me the bike, she brings me a photograph of her standing next to the bike on Christmas morning in 1971 when she was when she was 8 years old. She also brought the receipt from the hardware store that her dad bought it from. All right. So
who has that? Right.
So they only wrote it, and I'm sure you remember the points on those things were terrible. They would run for a year, and that was it. So then she told me the story. So she now has grandkids. She wanted the grandkids to be able to ride it. It hasn't ran, since around 1972 or 3. But then I found out that little Mini was the last gift that her father gave her. He passed away 2 days after that Christmas morning, unexpectedly.
No.
And so, like that project, it's amazing at the emotional attachment that can be in stuff like this, that what we do every day. And it's, whether it's a windshield or a bike or something, how much it means to people. And it's cool to be a part of doing that stuff,
It is. And, my cousin Mike and I, he's a pastor here in Costa Mesa and is the chaplain for the PD department, right?
Right.
And, we talk about as you ride across the country, there's that, hey, you're waving. It's the camaraderie of motorcycling.
Right.
It's unbelievable. We're so lucky to be in this industry. I mean, I was a friend of Bob McKay's Bob Kay's, and he's, your guy, right?
Right.
Bob McKay, right?
Yep.
And so you ended up finishing a bike, right?
I've got 2 bikes.
I know I'm not supposed to be interviewing you, but you go ahead and tell me that story because I want to hear it. That made me be a bigger fan of you than ever in my life.
Well, thanks, Brian. I honestly I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm honored to have had the chance to get to know McKay. I mean, he was just a wonderful guy. And the short story is, this goes back almost 15 years ago.
He owned a couple Harley dealers at one time in Canada.
That's right. Yeah, McKay's Harley Davidson, and then he had
sold those, and then went on to he always built cool custom vintage bikes, right? And he's all about making them authentic and making them real and making them right. What the beauty is in his last few years is he got into Facebook. So then we could all see it. We could all connect with it.
Right.
I was so stoked. And so then that's where you pick up all of your story.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it was interesting. Bob always told me that, he loved being a Canadian, but he always said if I was an American, more people would have known who I was. And, so how we met, of course, Freddie Arnold, of course. Well, Freddie and I were friends, and Doug Coffey is actually the one that really kind of got me into the industry. Well,
oh, no way.
Yeah, so that goes...
Wow. It gets even smaller.
Yeah, that goes way, way back, right?
Doug from Headquarters.
That's right. Yeah, so I actually became Headquarters USA. This, again, goes back 15 years ago, right, or more. And but anyway, I had built a 100-inch panhead that was a matching belly number case. Well, Bob was building a 48, and he wanted to find a matching belly number engine. Freddie knew that I had it. Freddie told Bob, Kevin's got one of these engines. Well, Bob McKay, somebody I had admired for forever, calls me and wants to buy this engine from me. right? And so
Yeah.
what we ended up doing, me and Freddie met Bob down in Panama City and judged the Best of the Beach bike show together, right? And that's really kind of how I met Bob.
Yeah.
So I delivered the engine and sold him the engine. Now, you know what a matching belly number 100-inch panhead stroker built is worth, all right?
Yeah.
Well, I sold that engine to Bob for $8,000, all right?
Oh,
So
wow.
Bob called me about 2 weeks later. I mean, and this is what did it for me and Bob. So he calls me 2 weeks later and he goes, okay, I got to ask you a question. I said, sure. He said, why did you sell me that engine for $8,000? You and I both know what that engine is worth.
Right.
And I said, well, to tell you the truth, Bob, I believe I stand to make more off and more value out of our friendship than the value of any money I would have made off of you. And that
Winner.
That did it. When I expanded the shop, you know, way back then, him and Diane both came down and stayed like a month and a half. They rented a house. He helped me set up the shop, all kind of stuff. And then we ended up building some bikes together and stuff like that. And just, man, what a wonderful guy. And the stuff that I learned from him, he was that guy that I could call. You know, it just, no matter what, any time of the day. And we started to get in this habit. He would be on his back porch having a coffee every morning, and I'm driving to work. And, you know, we talk about stuff all the time. Well, on those two bikes, sorry, I'm going around the world to get across the street here.
It's okay.
It was about 9 years ago, he bent the first tube for that curved bike that everybody was going crazy about. And
Yep.
At that time, I remembered he was also looking, and I'm sure you remember the frames, the Motor Shop single loop, single down tube frames from the late 60s,
Yes.
early 70s.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, back then, he was looking for one of those frames. Well, what happened with the curved bike over the past 9 years, he would do something, make a frame rail, do something like that. He'd send me a picture and he'd call, and we would go back and forth with just different ideas and stuff about that bike. And then after a while, he calls and says, I'm not going to finish that dang thing, man. Just buy it like it is. And then it's like, well, okay, I'll do that. And then he calls and he goes, no, I want to finish it. And then I call him and say, don't finish it. Let me finish it. And it was this back and forth thing. So anyway, so then, unfortunately, when he passed away there, the curved bike obviously wasn't finished. Now, also right before he passed away, he actually found a real motor shop frame from the late 60s, early 70s. So that was really, the curved bike is the last bike that Bob ever hand fabricated. Well, actually, there's 3 layers to this. There's that bike. The motor shop frame was the bobber frame that he always wanted and finally found.
Yeah.
Well, when he passed away, he was in the middle of working on a Tracy body shovel head. And actually, Gare Conlon, over in Ireland, Gur did the paint on it.
Yeah, I always mess up his first name. I didn't even know how you say it. So, but him and Mick O'Shea and those
Right.
guys, I met in Ireland doing the Irish motorbike show.
Exactly.
So then to find out or see them on Facebook and realize they're all interconnected,
Yeah.
blew me away. And I'm actually going to post up a gift that Gur just sent me
Right.
tomorrow on my social media. So you can
Awesome.
all be watching for
Awesome.
that.
Well, and so it was a few months after Bob died. Of course, as you can imagine, he had a lifetime worth of parts and everything else collected at the house. So I called Diane and said, I'm gonna come up there and help you. So Ryan Robinson, Ryan grew up with Bob too.
Yeah.
So Ryan was gracious enough to help Diane with a lot of stuff. And Greg Taylor, who actually took over Bob's original shop in Shallow Lake, which is now GT Cycle. So Greg was helping. So it's kind of like the 3 of us just, do what we got to do to help Diane. So I had the opportunity to finish. So I went up there. The Tracy body bike was the last finished motorcycle to roll out of McKay Cycle Creations. And I was the guy that finished building that bike. So I went up there and finished that bike so Diane could deliver it to the customer. And that was, man. Sorry.
Who has that bike? Who owns that bike?
It's
Where's
in,
it at?
it's in Canada. A guy bought it, and
Okay.
Bob was building it for him. So I finished that one, and then I told Diane, I said that curved bike has been something that Bob and I had in common. It's something we went back and forth on, and I have to finish that bike. It's just something I have to do. So it's McKay's last creation, if you will, is what it is. And then as far as the bobber goes, an interesting story on that one. Well, first, Andy Anderson is going to paint the curve bike for me.
Of course he is. He painted the Tracy bike, right?
And then...
Or no, Gur
painted that.
right? At his place.
Right. Well, Gur called me when he found out that I had the bobber frame. Gur's going to paint that one for me. So I'm going to ship everything to Gur.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
So the connections are just, everywhere. And long story short, I'm not done with them yet. We've been very busy, and those are bikes that have to be perfect. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
So that's the story. He was just a wonderful, wonderful guy. So thanks for mentioning Brian. It's mentioning that. I appreciate it.
Well, I think it's just it's a tribute to motorcycling, and it's a tribute to people and what they're doing and where we're at on things. I think that's a big deal.
Right. Absolutely. It is definitely. And actually I've got to say a thanks to you. When I was very, very young and new in this industry, you had an impact on me and you don't even know it. If you remember it's
because I have no memory left.
Yeah, look at all this, man. Both of us, right?
I know. I got that great.
If you remember, this probably goes back almost 10 years ago. We were at a show in Toronto, and me and you, Hector Melendez, Grady Pfeiffer, and I think Miguel.
Oh, man.
All right. All of us rode to Niagara. All right. And
absolutely.
Yeah, so that was the first time I really got to hang out with you, but there was something you said and did, man, that made an impact. And when we were sitting around getting ready to sit down and have lunch, all right, we're deciding where we're going to sit. And you looked at me and you go, I'm sitting next to the smart guy. I want to talk to him. And man, what that did for me, it was like, because I'd admired your stuff for years, Brian, and I was over the moon with that. And we sat there, I'm sure you remember, we sat there for an hour.
Yeah,
we talked hot rods, we talked about tuning bikes and engines and stuff. And man, that made my day. So I wanted to thank you for that. So
you're welcome. That was one of those great trips where Mikkel and I were just walking through the lobby, and Grady said, "We're going to Niagara Falls." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "It's right here." I'm like, well, "I didn't know that." And he's like, "Yeah, we got room in the car. Come on, let's go." And so we turned around, went the other way, and headed for the parking lot.
So we've got some viewers. Speaking of good camaraderie and stuff in the motorcycle business, everybody, Brian and I were talking just before we went live here. All Kids Bike is an awesome charity organization. Now, Brian's heavily involved with it as well. And basically what they do is, you're probably familiar with these Strider push bikes. And the idea is to put a bunch of Strider push bikes into schools, smaller local schools, to encourage, physical activity, getting kids onto wheels and all that. So if you guys notice on the chat there, you have the super chat option where you can click that button and you can send a few bucks. All right, so here's what Brian and I both have agreed to do. Every dollar that you guys send on a super chat, Brian is going to match it and I am going to match it. And we're going to donate all of that money to All Kids Bike. So if you guys have got an extra buck or two, hit the super chat thing, and then Brian and I are going to match it. Right on? High five.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing. If you give us $10, right?
It becomes $30.
Now the $10 you just gave us is $30.
That's right.
Okay. And so the beauty of it is, as kids stride along, it's so great because they get confidence, right? They'll walk the bike around 2 or 3 laps in their kindergarten or first grade class. And then all of a sudden they see the other kids picking their bike up and their feet up and coasting, and they're picking their feet up and coasting. I got to tell you, we had our big pre-Sturgis party every year in front of the Corn Palace.
Hey, Brian, hang on. I'm sorry. Let me interrupt you just a second.
Oh, good.
Mike Spall just dropped $25. Mike, thank you, buddy.
So that's $75 right there. We're
Thank
already
you, man.
in. See?
I'm sorry.
Oh, and hey, Kevin, my wife, Vanessa's at home. She's our CFO. She just texted me and said, thanks for the heads up. You're welcome, baby.
Thanks for the heads up, honey.
Yeah, you're just spending money out there. Thanks a lot, Brian.
Thanks a lot. So, matter of fact, the last time I saw you, man, and congratulations, of course. Last time I saw you, you told me you had a little one on the way, and here comes Kargo. And how's that, man?
Precious
What
Kargo.
a good-looking young man, buddy. You and Vanessa did good on that one.
Yeah, thanks. That has to be all Vanessa. I don't know. I said, I don't know what you did, baby, but way to bake that thing. He looks amazing. He's a handsome little dude.
He does favor his mama for sure.
Yeah, and he's he's such a mellow little guy. He's just so smiley and happy all the time. And it's funny, we get on the plane and people look over like, oh, great, I got to sit by the guy with the kid. And by the time we're done, when we get off the plane, they look at us and they go, wow, what a great traveler. That little guy's amazing.
Right. Yeah.
And it's funny because when Vanessa was pregnant, we fly out here every 2 weeks to see Ashlyn, our daughter we just introduced you to. And she said, your Precious Kargo holder is at blue number 9, So she gets the bag. I go get the rental car and come back and pick her up. And I said, that's it. You're right. Even though you're not showing it, Precious Kargo. That really is Precious Kargo. So that's what I'm going to use the hashtag Precious Kargo. That's what it is to me. We're not going to call it Baby K because we're not going to find out what it is. We didn't want to, know.
Right.
And she goes, Brian, it's going to stick.
Yep.
Well, next thing, my friends from Spain and all over, Antonio and those guys are like, how's the Precious Kargo going? And I'm like, right on. I'm like, that's it. And we went to the hospital and she goes, okay, today's the day. It's going to be Adeline Karen. My mom's name was Karen. Or what? And I said, well, his middle name has to be Brian. It's a tradition, oldest boy. It's my first ever biological child, right? His name has to be Brian, middle name Brian. She goes, and I said, I kind of like the Kargo with a K.
That's right on.
And so that's it. It's Precious
Kargo.
It's pretty easy.
So get a load of this. You need to tell Miss Vanessa, your CFO there, to get ready to write some checks.
Yeah, people are getting happy for the holidays.
Yep. So Sully hit us with $25. Carrie Lewis, $100. Bob Seam, $20. Ralph, $20. Guys, thank you so much. Every dollar counts, guys. We really appreciate it. So, excellent. That's good to hear.
That's huge. By the time we leave here, we're going to raise over $1,000. And just so you guys know, out there in readership land, it takes $4,000 roughly to fund a school. Okay. But those bikes will be in that school for a minimum of 5 years. And it's about 15 bikes. It comes with the helmets, the spray. So there's no, head lice problems or anything like that to disinfect the helmets. And this is such a big deal because if we get kids on bikes, maybe we get kids on motorcycles.
Right.
And we got to get them into wheels, whether it's, bicycles or anything, because we know kids nowadays don't even want to buy a car, right? And yet we're all into hot rod cars. We're all into all the cool stuff, the trucks, you name it. And the best way to get kids started is to get them on wheels and give them that confidence,
Absolutely.
Right? And if somebody's parents didn't teach them, we had a girl that I was telling you about at the Corn Palace. She's maybe 9 or 10 years old, right? She walked up to the booth, and she was, in this case, too tall to be on the ride. And they said, do you want to try one? And she goes, no, I'm too big. And they go, no, it's okay. We're winding down here. You can go ahead and grab one and get out here. She followed the other kids around, kind of coasted around about 5 laps. And then Ryan McFarland, the guy who founded Strider, goes over and says, would you like to try a pedal bike?
Oh.
She goes, yeah, I guess I would. And he goes, she was super shy, super quiet, right? Puts her on a pedal bike. She took off and rode that pedal bike. Laps around that ring. Got off and went to the girls that were helping her and just was almost screaming. She was so excited.
That's awesome.
I just rode a bike. Now think about 9 or 10 years old and you've never ridden a bicycle that didn't have training wheels.
Yep.
I said, was she there with her parents? He said, no, she was there with her 15-year-old sister.
Right.
So even bigger, right?
Crazy.
She didn't know. She didn't have the confidence. She didn't think she could even do it. She's watching these little kids go around that are 4 and 5 years old balancing bikes. And she's a 9 or 10-year-old girl. Think what that did for her life. It's just like me and you having a conversation in Niagara Falls. Everybody needs that little bit of confidence.
A little bit.
So anything you're giving today is going to be huge. And Kevin and I are going to just bump it up. So every dollar you give is going times 3 today. Just think about
how
that.
cool would it be if we could sponsor a school today?
It would be crazy.
Would it be nuts?
And maybe we do it in your
Yeah,
town.
maybe so.
Right?
So and it's
bring it home.
and it's kind of a scary thing too. You know, I'm not a big department retail store kind of guy. I like shopping local, but you know, you go into a big retail store these days, the big W one, right? And
right.
You'll remember a few years ago there were 4 and 5 aisles dedicated to bicycles. They, you know, you go in there now, there's half an aisle, and they may have 30 bikes in stock, and yeah, kids need to be on bikes. You know,
yeah, they need to get outside and they just need to ride.
Right, exactly. Like, you know, in our neighborhood, we have a bunch of people that own golf carts and stuff. I don't own a golf cart, and I won't let my daughter drive one. It's get on your bicycle and go. You know, go do something.
Go use your legs.
So I've been watching Instagram, man. Your crew over there doing the 12 days of Christmas thing. They are knocking that out of the park on Instagram, right?
Yeah, and I can't help but laugh because my daughter Carly, they wanted to do it. And then she goes, "What do you want me to do?" I said, "I just want you to be you." And, you know, she's been involved in the motorcycle industry. I've been around it. You know, I stepped into her life when she was 11 years old.
Right.
And her mom and her sister have all set land speed records. And she's built bikes now for Michael Lichter's, you know, event in Sturgis, her Project Princess, a little Indian Scout Rigid. And, man, I couldn't be more proud of her. She's just doing a great job with that thing. And then all of a sudden, she's got the girl gang going on. So it's her and Sonia, our flash sale. She's always in the back doing her thing. And then Vanessa's standing on fenders and wearing a fender on her head yesterday. I was in the airport literally just laughing. And they were telling me all week, they go, "Brian, people think we're drunk. They think we've been drinking eggnog that's been spiked or something." And now I completely understand it. I couldn't agree more. You do look squirrely, but they're having a blast. So thank you for noticing. They're enjoying it.
Oh, it's awesome, man. So let's you're gonna like my pun here. I'm normally not a pun guy. Let's roll back the clock a little. How was that? How was that?
Well I'm done? In. That's a good one. Well played.
Let's roll the clock back. What got you started? How far does this go back? What was that pivotal moment that you knew where you were headed in this industry?
I was a kid who had a Honda 50 mini bike. My dad, we had a vacant lot. I ride around in circles, right? Neighbor kids would come over, and I'd charge them a nickel to ride around 10 laps, right?
That's cool.
Well, then I had 20 cents. I could buy a comic book. I'm that old, right? I was excited.
You were an entrepreneur.
So who knew,
entrepreneur renting your Honda Mini.
Yeah, in fourth grade, but I didn't know that, right? Fast forward to I'm 14 years old, and my dad bought me a Honda 400, and man, what a treat! You know, I could go anywhere. Like I had my own wheels. Me and my friends could go out and ride, because at age 14 you can get your license in South Dakota. Well, I would drive his old pickup truck, you know, his work truck, but the motorcycle was mine, right? I was responsible for it,
right?
You know, and so that was a big deal. And then you fast forward to even farther than that. In college and stuff, and in high school, and I mean, I'm the kid who would get bored, and school was honestly kind of easy for me because I have a good short-term memory, so I could remember anything I'd read, go take a test, and then forget it all the next day. So it didn't help me, but it was a gift all the same, I guess.
Right.
And the funny thing is, I always dreamed, man, wouldn't it be great if you ever had a car or a motorcycle that'd be in one of these magazines?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Never thinking I'd get to this point, you know. Now when people say, you know, what's next, I'm like, I think I've done everything I thought I could do and more. And I've lived such a great life. There were 13 kids in my high school class, count of 350 people. And now I have friends like Gurr in Ireland and Mick O'Shea and all those guys. Yep. And, you know, Bob McKay, Grady, any of those guys, we could go to anywhere and see something and see somebody that you know. And man, I was just a shy kid. I didn't think I would have this, right? And so when I first built my first bike, I took it all apart because I wanted it to be like Donnie Smith, or I wanted it to be like Arlen Ness.
Yep.
Truth be told, I put my first FXR frame in the trunk of my mom's Monte Carlo, big old trunk, right? I mean, no, it's not a new Monte Carlo.
Yeah,
it's 75 or 6, right? I drive it up to Minneapolis, and I go to Donnie Smith's house, in the garage behind his house, him and Rob Rail. Rob's like, this guy, right? And I'm like, dude, that guy's scary. And I take this thing in there, and I don't know, rake from a hole in my head. And I give Donnie my frame, and he goes, well, these other ideas you got are good ideas. And I could do this, and I could do that.
Right.
But I might use your one idea on one of my bikes. Wow, really?
Right.
Like that's that confidence moment that a Strider bike is. That's a confidence moment of me telling you I want to sit by the smart guy, you, in Niagara Falls, right? Everybody needs that. Everybody craves that.
That's right. That's right. It was Bob McKay buying that panhead from me. You know,
right. Donnie Smith believed in me, and then people said, well, you know, aren't you bummed out he used that on your bike, on his bike, and got it out before you did? You know, his bike was done before mine.
No.
I said, no, it's like imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Okay. Fast forward to being in Daytona after I'd built my first bike and I competed at Sturgis and got like 4th place. And I thought I won the Super Bowl. Right. And all my friends were like, man, you're going to win. You're going to win the local car show. And I'm like, I don't even care about that. I want to compete in Daytona. I want to compete in Sturgis. That was my goal. Right. And then suddenly, Arlen Ness, I'm in Daytona. I'm telling him I had this idea. And he said, Brian, here's my advice. Put your blinders on. Do it your way.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if somebody else built an orange bike and you want to build an orange bike. Build Brian Klock's orange bike.
Right.
It'll be different. But you got to stay true to yourself, right? So even on this bagger thing, when everybody was building big wheel baggers, right? Mm-hmm. All I had to do was go back to my beginnings and listen to Arlen in my ears going, put your blinders on, Brian. Okay.
Right.
Our bike had a little wheel. It had carbon fiber wheels. It had carbon fiber brakes. It had, you know, killer suspension, double row bearings in the swing arm to keep it from wobbling.
Yep.
And then the next year we invented the windshield, right? The flare windshield, which is our signature part. And the whole time, I never in my life built a big wheel bagger.
Right.
Biggest wheel I ever put on a bagger was a 23.
Right.
And now it's performance bagger mania.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, I was there in 2006. I'm still there 14 years later.
Yep, exactly.
Going on to 15.
Right? Well, and I'm with you. I never did that either. I like putting in inverted metric bike front ends on FXR frames and stuff. You know, I've got another one. That one I'm working on now. Been doing that stuff for years.
I call that the Skeeter Todd.
The Skeeter Todd.
In honor of our friend, right?
The Skeeter Todd. What was that black one he did? Man, that was like 15 years ago. 124.
Yeah.
They had an aluminum swing arm on it, all that stuff. I mean, it was...
Yeah, he's the king of putting on Ninja wheels and aluminum swing arms off of sport bikes on FXRs. And now that's a thing. Now people are making aluminum swing arms for bikes, and that's a deal, right?
Yeah, well...
Or for Harley.
Well, innovation becomes the standard if it's good innovation, right?
Right. So now we got better suspension, better brakes, better everything, and I'm excited about it. I think it's a good deal, and I'm excited about where it's going. I think the new Softail platform, I think Harley's kind of missing the boat a little bit there. That's a great performance bike, and you're seeing everybody buying that new, inverted fork version of it, like the Sport Glide or whatever you want to call it, and then they're putting an FXRT fairing on it.
Right.
That's the new, that platform's hot.
Well, what I think is the performance bagger thing. Yeah, all the bikes, it's becoming more about the rider experience than just about how the bike looks, and that's what excites me the most. Is the right suspension, like you said, the right brakes, the right wheels, and of course, I've always been a horsepower junkie, so it's to say the least.
It's good that you can admit it. That's
it's go fast or don't go kind of thing, right? So I'm glad to see that evolve and have people enjoying the riding experience more than each has their place. That's why Baskin Robbins has 31 flavors, right? But it's nice to see that trend and people really out riding. So most people. What year did you invent the flare windshield?
So we went to Bonneville in 2006, and Laura, set that land speed record with the bike, the world's fastest bagger, which it became known as, right? It was just called the WFB because it was originally the way fast bagger, not the world's fastest bagger. Well, then once we set the land speed record, it changed the game. And all the way home, I had my hand out the window, and I'm like, okay, this makes your hand go up, right? We've all played that game, This makes your hand go, down, but you don't want to go down hard because then it's really going to mess it up. Well, if you slightly curve your hand, that's the hip of the windshield, and that pushes ever so slightly down on the front end of the bike. Stock bike has 30 pounds of lift. Our windshield creates 15 pounds of downforce, and it's like putting a spoiler on your motorcycle. Right. So when you go past a semi and you feel a little bit of this shake, now your bike's just going to track.
Exactly.
The reason is the bike's pulling up, and so as the bike's pulling up, it's creating a pocket of air, which is now tipping your frame up. So now the geometry is all jacked up. So it's putting all the weight on the back end, and it's making that thing wobble.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the head shake is literally a head shake. The air is lifting up the frame, or lifting up the fairing, which is pulling on the frame and pulling on the suspension. So now your suspension's all the way maxed out.
Right.
It's not in that sweet spot. There's nowhere for it to go. So when you go by that semi, of course it's going to wiggle because there's no sweet spot.
Right. Well, so you did the windshield, and I've watched your product line grow and grow over the years. I mean, I don't want to say virtually everyone knows you from your windshields and your fenders.
They don't.
But man, you make you've got all kind of stuff. You do stuff for side by sides and Shine Works. Matter of fact, every engine I build here, when they get polished and cleaned up, all of our Skunk Works builds and stuff, every one of them gets shined up with the Engine Works and all of that stuff. What all do you have? I mean, you got all kind of stuff.
It's all born out of necessity, right?
Right.
So we had the windshield, and then we were starting to make steel fenders because when we first got into this bagger thing, we were stretching everybody's fender just a little bit so it even out with the bags and make it look a little cooler. And then we made metal fillers to go between the bag and the fender. And then we started making ergonomically correct handlebars so you didn't have that pinch in your back, and it made it better.
Right.
And then we needed speaker grills, so we made some speaker grills. Then we needed vent screens for the bugs not coming through the new road glides. We made those. Then we teamed up with Dynamat so that the sound would be better, so you didn't really have to put an amp in. You just got good sound quality out your fairing. And then most recently, and this will be your debut, okay? This is just for you, for all your viewers right now. We have had aisle mounts, the magnetic phone mount for your phone, for a while, right? I've been doing business with those guys since 2013. We now own aisle mounts.
No way.
Yeah.
Man, congratulations.
Nobody's
awesome.
heard this anywhere in the industry. We'll be rolling out some new stuff in January, February as we get it all done. But we acquired aisle mounts, and so we officially, it's a Klockwerks part now. It's a Klockwerks own deal, and we'll be making stuff for your Ford F-250 truck. We'll be making it for cool little mounts for hot rods. We're going to make stuff for motorcycles. We've got the new Challenger coming out. We got a new Road Glide mount coming out. We're excited.
Man, congratulations on that. I'm going to take a break for a second. It looks like we're going to get some more Strider bikes, bud. We've got Kirk Koopman, $20. Paul Magler, I hope I pronounced that right, Paul, for $25. Steven Richardson for $50. Stuart MacArthur for $20. Thank you, guys. Remember, Brian's matching these. I'm matching these.
So Vanessa's at home with her calculator going, man, those guys just raised $1,500, so $2,000.
Yep, exactly.
So
Well,
every dollar you give, it's tripled, right? So if you give 1, it's 3. If you give 10, it's 30.
Right. So
do what you can. We're going to get kids on 2 wheels.
There is one thing that I like that you do with your handlebars, the ergo bars, that no one else in the industry has seemed to catch on to. All right. No one references the size of their handlebars based off of the OE sizes. So to a large degree, you have to put the bar on the bike, have a customer sit and guess. Well, you can look at yours and it says that bar is 2 inch taller than stock, or 1 inch more pullback than stock, and that's a home run, man. It makes it easier to choose the bar,
Well, and it seems so logical,
yes.
Kevin, but that's really what we're trying to do is just make sense of it, right? Anything we do, we're trying to make a little better part. The fender is made out of a little bit thicker material than Harley's, so you have a little more torsional rigidity in the front end. So when you're going into a corner and your forks are trying to twist themselves apart,
Right.
it's like a fork brace. So now it's just going to handle better,
Right.
right? All that little stuff that we probably don't run up on the rooftop and shout about enough, it really makes people's bikes work better.
Right.
And Shineworks was the same thing. I was frustrated. I went to one of the big companies and said, will you make me my own product? And they said, yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Well, 3 years later, nobody got to it. And a guy came to me at Sturgis and said, why do you have all those products back there? And I said, honestly, because they suck. And I went back to work. And I thought, oh, man.
Yep.
It's been a long day. That was so rude. My mom would not be proud of me.
Right.
And the guy stayed right there off to my corner. And I was like, oh, great. He's not going away. And I said, sir, I'm sorry. Let me introduce myself. I'm Brian Klock. And he goes, I know who you are. Tell me why you don't like them.
Right.
I told him every product that's sitting up there and what I didn't like about it, whether it didn't work in the sun or the shade, didn't work on this color, was too greasy, did this, did that, didn't have enough wax property. And he goes, one of them's mine. Like, oh, okay, I'm digging a hole, right? And so he said, let me make you what you want. I'm a chemist. And so 20 some odd variations later, we got what we wanted. And now the stuff has gone through the roof. You can buy it on Amazon Prime. You can buy it at your local dealer if you can convince him to carry yet another cleaning product. But even Drag Specialty said, we don't need another cleaning product, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
We gave it to them. And now, truth be told, Drag Specialties even uses it to clean a returned part after it's been inspected to go back in the package. The windshield manufacturer might make a windshield for somebody else, but they use our product to clean that windshield before it goes in the
No
box.
kidding. Man, that's awesome. It's great stuff.
It's
That's what I
crazy.
use in the shop. It's awesome stuff.
And all because of me being offensive to a chemist, right? I mean,
Right.
I'm very fortunate. I mean, it's just the relationships now that I build because of things that happen, and the camaraderie that you can get in motorcycling is just second to none. I'm just a fan.
Yeah, we're good. I thought it broke up for a second. Sorry about that.
No
So
problem.
you're a car guy too. Hot rods?
Oh man, you're hitting on all the butts. My wife's going to text me again here in a minute. She, Vanessa said, Brian, I don't know why you don't let people know. Like my staff knows, like I'm into cars, but she took me to Pomona to the Roadster show, the Grand National Roadster show. We walked into the main building where there's 14 cars competing for the big title. And we stood in one spot for 3 hours.
Yep.
As this guy came up that I knew, and these guys came up that I knew, and these guys came up. We'd all talk. They'd leave. I'd still stand there. Somebody else comes up. She goes, so I thought you were a motorcycle guy. Like I said, I am. How do you know all these car guys? I said, well, I'm into this too, but I don't really run around and scream about it,
Right.
And so that's where Klock's Garage came from. She encouraged me to get out there and actually show people the cars, and let's just talk about it. It's a thing. You're into it, right? I'm down here in Southern California. I got up at 5:30 this morning, took a shower, and went to Donut Derelicts with TJ Jackson, who many of you know from the Indian press fleet days.
Yep.
And TJ met me there, and Ashlyn went along, and we got a donut. We looked at cars. We hung out. And so, yeah, I'm just into anything with wheels. You got a flat bottom boat that's got a big block and a blower in it. Cool. If it burns gas, let's go do it.
Well, I say I like everything that burns fuel except for stock lawnmowers. But
of course, even your lawnmower would have to be hot rodded
too. And that's really where I got started with everything. I mean, I built my first engine when I was 9 years old in my dad's garage. And
wow.
So it's been, and I've had the opportunity to restore some unbelievable cars over the years too. Your 70 AAR Cudas, 69 Super Bs. I actually, and a lot of people don't know that the Corvette originally started out as a station wagon. You may have seen the 53.5, what was originally the Nomad.
Yeah.
Well, I had a chance.
Looked like a Nomad.
Yeah,
kinda.
and then of course, they decided they wanted to make it a coupe instead, so they shortened it, made it a two-door, and then the Nomad nameplate moved to 55, right? Well, I restored one of those concept cars, one of those Corvette station wagons. Mopars, GMs, Fords, and all that. And I knew you were into cars, but when I was hitting your Klock's garage stuff and I saw that polysphere engine sitting on a crate, I went, "Oh man, he's got some old school stuff." This is
he's got some weird stuff, is what you said.
Exactly. That's a weird one. What'd you figure out? It's like a 51 polysphere or something like that. DeSoto Pontiac.
I think it's between 51 to 53. Yeah, DeSoto Plymouth motor. Right. It has the weird heads on it and the crazy funky looking manifold. And as a design aesthetic, it's just a cool looking motor. It never was fast. It was never big power, but it's just a cool looking motor. And I have a 34 Plymouth that Howard Russell, a gentleman from Kansas, actually gave me. We met and he said, Brian, I guess I'm more of a car guy than a motorcycle guy, but I've always had motorcycles. I really enjoy your passion. We were down there speaking at a thing, and he put his name on the back of a card and put 34 Plymouth. And I said, Howard, I can't restore that for you. That's not my game, but I know a lot of guys, right? So let me know if you ever need any help. I dropped that business card off my desk one day. And I believe that you should act on anything that just comes your way. Otherwise, you may have missed an opportunity. And I picked it up and I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, it's been a couple of years. I won't call him. So called him up, left a message. Hope you and your wife are doing fine. Just checking in on you. I hope you got that 34 Plymouth all squared out. Just wanted to say hello. Dropped the card off the desk and thought I should call you.
Perfect.
Called me back in an hour and he said, I want you to come get that car. And I said, Howard, I can't afford that car. I appreciate the offer, but I just literally called to say hi. He goes, did I ask you for any money?
Wow.
I said, no. He goes, you'll tell a good story with that car and it will go on to live a good life. I've owned that car since I was 16 years old, Brian.
Wow.
I painted it. The paint cost me $12. The only thing I regret is I let it in Volkswagen taillights.
Okay.
Mind you, they're leaded in, so they're never going to come out of there. They're good, but I just probably wasn't my best styling cue. He said it just seemed to be the right thing at the time. He said, so anyway, I want you to come pick it up. It's sitting out under a tarp. I got into woodworking. Car's just sitting out there. My kids don't want it. And I went down there thinking, I'm going to pick up a rusted Hulk. I never saw a picture of it. My guys were like, don't you think it's weird that some guy would give you a 34 Plymouth? I said, I don't care. The fact that he thought enough of me to actually even offer it.
Right.
If I haul back a rusted Hulk and take it to the junkyard, I did what I was supposed to do, and I closed the loop on this relationship, just like you did with Bob McKay and finishing that bike. And I went down there, and this car is solid as the day is long. Like I can drive it right now.
Right.
And all we had to do is fix the brakes on it and get it running. One of my buddies who's into old Plymouth grabbed it, and he got it running for me, Bernie. And I'm telling you, it's so cool. And so his name was Howard. And yes, it's weird that someone would give you a car that good. Yep. And so it's called the How Weird.
Weird.
So
did I that 36 Ford 4-door that I bought, right? All right.
Yes.
Did I tell you where that car ended up? All right.
No.
So this was I was actually looking for a Model T, believe it or not. And
okay.
I found the Model T and I'm up in Maine, New Hampshire border. And while I'm looking at it, this guy goes, you might be interested in this 36 Ford 4-door that I've got. And I'd never owned a blue Ford 4-door before. Might as well be a 36, right? Well, when I look at the car.
Yeah, why not own something
Yeah,
iconic?
So it had on the dash 60,000 miles on it. It was a one-owner vehicle, completely rust-free. Still had the original tags on it from 1936. It had been stored in a barn for several decades. There were even oil change stickers in the door jamb from the 50s and 60s,
cool.
right?
Yeah, from the 50s, 60s.
So I brought it home, and I did what I don't call it a restoration. I call it a preservation, right? So the idea is to keep everything bone stock in that car. All mechanical braking system, the flathead Ford in it. I had it tuned to the point I could balance a nickel on the intake manifold.
Nice.
So this car was pristine, and the restored all that original lacquer. The car looked like a brand new paint job. It was amazing. But the one thing I wanted to do different was paint the wheels and the hubcaps red because it makes it go faster, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, look at me. I'm wearing red. I get it. I'm
Yep.
all about the red.
So I had absolutely no intent on selling that car. You know, that was the ice cream car. You know, go get an ice cream on Sundays.
Yeah.
Well, I'd put a couple of pictures up on social, and this guy calls me from Kentucky and tells me he's buying that car. And I no.
Last time I checked, I still
Yeah,
own
still
it. Are
mine.
you sure, sir?
So he said, I want that car, and let me tell you why. Well, his dad was 92 years old. His wife had passed away 15 years earlier, and his dad told his son, I'm 92 years old, I could croak tomorrow. I remember when my dad bought a brand new 1936 blue Ford four-door, brought it home and painted the wheels red. If you find me one of those cars, buy it, because I want to own one before I die.
No
Yes, sir.
way.
So 2 days after I put that, this is the divine intervention, right?
Right down to the wheel.
Right down to the wheels. So I called bull crap on the guy. I mean, how often do you see a bone stock 36 Ford you could drive to California? It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So the dad got on the phone, and I talked to him, and man, I was goosebumps and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I
I
said,
bet.
you know what? Fine, come and get the car. I mean, just yeah. Well, that old man hadn't left his town in 30 years, but he made the drive from there to my house to get the car. They pull up at 2:00 in the morning. Had to help the old man get out of the truck. You know, he's crumpled over, and he was old.
Yeah.
He was tired, you know. And when I raised the garage door and he saw the front of the car, he went down on his knees and started crying. And so he said, you know, my first drive in this car has to be with you. So I put him in the passenger seat, and he's sitting there looking around the car. He said, even the interior's the same color. He said, it's still the brown mohair. He said, this is my dad's car. Well, what had happened is Dad bought the car, and, you know, we're talking Depression era, right? Well, only a few months after he bought the car, he lost the car, and, you know, and had to feed his family and such. So,
yeah. Couldn't keep it.
Me and that old man rode around my town in the middle of the night for an hour in that old car, him telling me about his wife that had passed and how much the car meant to him and everything. And so it's there again, like we were talking about bikes. It's amazing how something like that can mean so much to somebody else, right? And the significance. So that old man got his 1936 Ford.
Well, you know, and I think what you did for me, Kevin, was just validated. A little trick I played on my wife. In January, I was looking at this old green Mercury, and I said, man, that car's going to go cheap. It's at this auction, and we were, you know, auctioning off one of the Jack Daniels bikes to raise money to bring the troops home for the holidays. And Saturday morning, I'm up there, and all of a sudden I hear this, you know, 14,000. I turn around, and it's this green Merc. And I'm like, oh, man. I grabbed the guy beside me, who's my friend Jack, and I said, Jack, you got a bid on that? The guy behind me goes, you want that car? I said, yeah. Well, I didn't know he was a spotter. We were in the VIP lounge thing. And so he raises his hand, and boom. And I'm like, sir, I don't have a bidder pass. He goes, I know who you are. We're good. We'll get you taken care of. Don't worry.
Right.
2 seconds later, Vanessa turns around and goes, what did you just do? Right? Well, it's kind of like the Strider bike thing, honey. I love you.
And the CFO's going, oh crap.
Right. So I buy this green car, and then I took the car to the hospital, and we hauled cargo home in that car.
No kidding, man. How cool is that?
And Vanessa goes, you rotten dog, you're never going to sell this car, are you? She goes, this is Cargo's car now. I said, yep.
Right.
When he's 16 years old, he could tell his friends, yeah, it's a 1951 Merc, but my parents brought me home from the hospital in it.
How cool is that?
I had some guy walking by the hospital in Mitchell, South Dakota, take a picture of us with our masks on, with Cargo, right in front of that Merc. And then we took our masks off. And literally, if you turn that picture black and white, you wouldn't know if it's 1951 or if it's 2020, the year of COVID.
No kidding.
Right?
How cool is that?
So,
well, we've got a couple. We got a couple other things here,
go.
Brian. We got Robert Lewis, $25. Dewey did it for $20. Derek Farrell for $5. Thank you, sir. Actually, Derek Farrell threw in another $25 there too. I haven't even maybe.
So Daryl, you took $5. Then you added $25. So that's 30
That's 30 bucks.
That means Kevin's got to give $30. It means Brian's got to give $30. So what started out as a $5 idea, Daryl, just turned into almost $100 for Strider Bikes.
And is your lovely bride doing the math? Because
Probably, I don't know. Vanessa, are you out there? Are you listening still? Can you run the calculator for us?
All right, so what I'd like to do, Brian, if you don't mind, because I know I told you we'd only run this for about an hour, man, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Whatever you need to do,
I'm going to go
boss.
through here and see and open this up. Normally, I get hammered with questions. Fortunately, the guys have held off a little bit to give us the time to talk.
Thank you.
Comments over and over, Brian, from so many people. Actually, there's a Steven Richardson. We're doing a custom bike for him. It's going to be loaded with some Klockwerks stuff. We've got one fella after another. At Motoboy 832, Secret American Bikers, ton of guys that loved your stuff. Best windshield I've ever had, best fenders I've ever had, just one comment after another. If you guys want to ask any questions, then, we can ask it now, and then we're going to cut this off here in about, maybe 5 to 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to flip through and see what kind of questions we have. Who's the pretty thing sitting next? Oh, there she is. Hey.
Yeah, Ashlyn's back.
back.
I think she took a break. She might have went and played a game or something for a little bit, but she's back.
My phone died.
I'm excited. Oh, her phone died. Okay. So I'm excited. It's just fun. And, the first time I took Ashlyn to Pomona, I said, this gives you the serendipity of cars. I took Ashlyn to Pomona to the Roadster Show with Vanessa, and I said, okay, we go in here. If you hang out with us for the day of this car show, I'll buy you a little car, a toy car, or whatever you want, right? She walks in the door, turns the corner, and goes right to this guy who's got these really cool paintings, like, elongated, like, maybe, I don't know, 12 by 20 pieces of art. And I'm like, ugh, this is going to be expensive. This is not a $10 Hot Wheels car, right? And she looks at it. She goes, that's the one I want. Well, what it is, it's a 1964 Thunderbird. Okay.
Right on.
And it's cruising down the coast, right? The ocean behind it. And I'm like, well, if you really want that, that's fine. Well, as we're doing that, who walks up? Sid Chavers from Sid Chavers Upholstery, right? He does all the America's Most Beautiful Roadster, Riddler cars. Yep. Guy's epic, right? And I met him through motorcycles.
Amazing, isn't it?
And he called and bought a windshield one day, and I said, Sid Chavers, like Chavers.
Yep.
Laura's on the phone with him and goes, if you want to talk to him, just get on the phone. I said, give me the phone, right? I said, is this the Sid Chavers? I guess, he said. Well, guy.
Right.
And I said, well, I'm a huge fan.
Yep.
Oh, you don't even know. I said, no, I really do know. So now we have a decade-long, at least, friendship.
Right.
He gets to meet Ashlyn. Ashlyn gets this 64 Thunderbird thing. The next thing we go to, we're walking around Donut Derelicts, and Ashlyn sees a 64 Thunderbird and goes, I want that car. Because I'm like, pick which car you'd like. What is it? It's a baby blue with a white top, 64 Thunderbird.
That's my car.
I'm like,
that's my car.
What? Yeah, I'm like, what is happening with this kid, right? What she doesn't know is, guess what I've got sitting back in the shed that I bought from somebody well over 15 or 16 years ago.
A 64
No
Thunderbird.
way.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So the next time she's in South Dakota with her cousin, I go to the shed where the Thunderbird stored, and I open up the door. She walks in, and they're looking at all these bicycles and motorcycles and goofy crap I got piled up everywhere.
And cars. And cars.
And she runs to the back of the building, says, oh my, that's my car. I said, you're right, baby. That is your car. So I got a project ahead of me. I'm going to have to finish the 64 Thunderbird for this one right
64 T-Bird.
You've got to get on it.
Get on it.
Got to get on it. Look
Get
at her.
on it.
She's already like...
She needs a tool. She needs her
Right
own
after your
toolbox,
mom's
man.
kid.
Come on now.
Yeah, right after your mom's 52 Chevy, Vanessa's got the same story. She pulls in the car, pulls in the lot, and says, "That's the car." I'm like, "You picked the worst car that I've got, like the oldest, rustiest, pull it out of a pasture car."
Right.
Well, here we go. Right now, we've got a 6-cylinder with 331 Cadillac pistons in it and a 292 stroker crank.
My man.
300 some horse. It's going to be cool.
Way cool. Way cool.
My car's first.
Her car's first. All right, so here's where we're at so far. With donations to these guys, $379. So with them and us, we're $1,100 and change. How cool is that, right?
So we finished this thing out strong, you guys. We can be over $1,200 or $1,500 because whatever you give, Kevin and I are each going to put in. And so, I mean, $1,500. We're over a third of the way to funding
a
school.
An entire school
For Strider Bikes.
Yeah, right on. I only see one question on here, Brian. Everyone's just talking about how great your stuff is. That's
good.
Great.
I guess we can load up the questions if you guys want. I'm happy to come back on, Kevin, because at any time you can call me. I would love to do this. You're a pro. This is super cool. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and for checking us out. I mean, at the end of the day, I continue just to be a fan of motorcycles. And I think if we all just take that approach and it's not us versus them and don't worry about whoever's going to shine. Like Arlen said, put your blinders on and go forward. When people asked me who I wanted to be, I said, I hope that one day I can be one of the gentlemen of our industry. And those people are Arlen Ness, Donnie Smith. If you see those guys and you stop them in a parking lot at any given moment, they'll stop and take a picture with you. Mm-hmm. They'll talk to you and they'll ask you about your bike. Not talk about their bike. They'll ask you about your bike. And I don't know that I'm the best at that. I still have to work on my listing skills, and you can certainly ask my wife. She'll tell you.
Yep.
But I'm very fortunate to be where we are in this industry and to have my family involved and to work with my wife every day. That's tough enough as it is. And yet we have, 15 or 16 people back there that are cranking it out for everybody. And it doesn't matter if it's the sales guy or the shipping guy. They put everything they can into it because I always tell them, well, we have to worry about 100 bikes or 1,000 bikes. You as a customer only have to worry about one bike. And our goal is just to take care of you the best we can.
Well, one of the things I love about it most, Brian, is, as well as I do, money is very hard to make these days. And, I work hard for mine, so do you, so do everybody else. And when somebody, it could very well be their life savings. When they come to you and either buy a product or they want an engine built or they want a bike built, they're taking their hard work and they're handing it to you and trusting that you could possibly be building their dream for them. And I can't think of anything more rewarding than to be able to, take a God-given skill and talent and be able to do that for someone and see the joy when it's over. And then they get to share it with friends and stuff. It's an incredible industry to be in. I have a passion for it. I love this industry. I know you do, and all the people that are in it just love it, man. And it's an awesome place to be for sure.
Well, and I think any of us, just like now, the first thing you did was open this thing up with, we're going to give it back. We're going to give back to Strider, right? That's the kind of leadership that we all need to have in our daily lives as well in our business lives. We're very fortunate to get to do what we're doing. At the end of the day, you're not going to take all these motorcycles or these cars or these things we're talking about with you. But sometimes all you have is your talent and your treasures. And maybe you don't have a lot of treasure. It's more the talent and the time. And anything you can give or anything you give of that multiplies itself, that's huge. And that's what honestly Christmas is all about, right? We all got given the ultimate gift,
That's right.
It's no secret that I'm a faith-based guy and that I run a faith-based company. We pray every morning. And I always tell the people that work for me, you don't have to believe what I believe. I get it. This is just how it works for me.
Right.
And, I think, Christ's example was just to be good to one another. And that's exactly what you showed today, Kevin. You're just like, let's be good to somebody. Let's give back,
Well, it's part of it. It's what we should all do, right? Take care of each other 100%. And all that stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Brian, my friend, I can't thank you enough for your time, bud. It was nice to meet her. Where'd she go? She's still there?
She ran off. Probably thinks her phone's charged up. She wants to see herself. She likes to look at that YouTube thing and see you and her,
I got you. So Any idea if Donnie's show is on this year or not?
I don't know. They've not really, anybody's really said a lot about any events. I'm not even hearing people talk about Daytona. I know the Drag Specialties Dealer Show in Louisville was canceled, and that's a bummer. But I certainly hope that, we can find a way to do more outdoor stuff if that's what it takes, and that would be the hard part about Donnie's show is it might have to move to the summertime. Because, that's a great place to connect with friends, but maybe we can't have it indoors. And so maybe it has to be an outdoor event and move to July or whatever. There's Ashley.
There
She's
she
back.
is.
So way to finish strong. You just said,
Finish strong.
I said probably went to get her phone.
Well, it's better to end this thing with a pretty face than our ugly mugs, right?
I hear you.
Is there anything you would like to add, Brian?
No, I continue to be a fan of people like you who light the torch for our industry and keep this alive. Help us tell the stories. Help us tell how we got to where we're going, because I think Walt Disney said it best. You can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. Right? And so as you look back, help that shape your future.
Yes.
We're all going to fall down. We're all going to make mistakes. You're going to have pissed somebody off or did something wrong in business or screwed up a relationship, whether it was with your wife or with a business partner, right? Don't let that define who you are. Just help it understand who you can be.
Right.
And go forward, because you can't change yesterday and you certainly can't predict tomorrow, but you can affect today. So you can be bitter or you can be better. Go for better.
Go for better. Brian, you're awesome, man. Thanks a million. Travel safe, of course, and send our love to all the girls and Precious Kargo, of course.
We'll do for sure.
And man, it was just
he's lucky now because his big sister will spoil him for 2 weeks, so he's got it made.
Well, you've got a Thunderbird to work on when you get back home, right?
I'm about to turn up the heat in that garage. It's a little chilly.
Brian, take care of yourself, my friend. I appreciate
Thanks.
it, pal. Thanks a million.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Good
buddy.
to see you, buddy.
Take care, hon. Merry Christmas.
Bye.
All right, everyone. I want to give a big thanks to all of you guys. Oh, let's see. I think we're still up and running. Yes, we're still up and running. I want to thank all of you guys for joining us and coming in. Again, big shout out to Brian. Be sure to, and we've got a couple of more minutes. If you guys want to throw a little more at it for the Strider bikes, that would be great. Again, Brian and I are going to match it, and then I'll come back and post on the community tab there as to how much we raised in total and what we're doing with that. So, guys, I appreciate your help with that. Thanks for joining us, and check back with us, I don't know, in a few days. That we'll probably post up a tech video of some kind. Be sure to check out Klockwerks. Check out Klockwerks on Instagram and Facebook and all the social media outlets there. I know he's doing a big blitz for Christmas gifts right now, so check him out there. And I want to wish all of you an incredible holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate it with love with your family. And all of you that donated for the Strider bikes in the Super Chats, thank you very much. Does my heart good. Know it means a lot to Brian, and I know it'll mean a tremendous amount to the kids that get to ride those bikes. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Thanks, everyone. Take care of yourselves and each other. Have a good one.